You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 146.
Welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, the show business owners listen to when they want to take their business to the next level. Head to businessbrainfood.com.au to catch up on past episodes and access show notes from every interview. Now, here's your host, Ben Futrell.
G'day, and welcome back to another episode of Business Brain Food. This, my friend, is the podcast that's 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, doesn't matter where you are in your business journey, there's always something new you can do. Doesn't matter whether you're scratching that entrepreneurial itch and just kicking off, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long time. No matter what, there is always something new you can do to take your business to the next level. And today, we are going to be talking to Carl Gould, all the way from New Jersey in the United States. And Carl is an absolute master of a business builder. You're in for a real treat today as we talk about his latest book, which is about how to business development, or how to build your sales process in your business. But the book's called Biz Dev Done Right, which if you're not used to that term, business development done right. So biz dev done right. We're going to talk about his 9-step process of building a sales process or building your business development so it is effective, and a whole bunch of other things as well. Now, before we do get into that, I wanted to welcome you back to the podcast. If you are a long-time listener, welcome back. So glad you keep tuning in every week. If you're new to the show, welcome. G'day, and thanks for hanging around. Thanks for checking us out. You got 145 episodes before this one to catch up on. So get busy listening. Time to do some binge listening. All right. But if you are a long-time listener, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are enjoying the show, head into iTunes and leave an honest review or rating. We do appreciate it. Now, if you want to catch me at one of my upcoming live events throughout September, I'm going to be traveling up and down the east coast of Australia, and I will be doing a 3-hour workshop, which is free for business owners to attend. Now, a lot of people ask me why I do them for free, and I want to assure you that they're not just one big sales pitch. What I'm finding is, in fact, I'll share something with you. Our attendance rate has been dropping. I've been doing free events now for the last 15 years, and over that period of time, I've had, attendance rates that have been over 100% back in the old days. I say the old days, look how old I sound. But back, 15 years ago, we'd put a newspaper ad in, we would get, maybe 90 bookings and 100 people would turn up. 5 years ago, that had changed. Maybe we would be doing digital marketing, email marketing. We'd get, 90 bookings and 75% would turn up. These days, it's hard to get 75 bookings. And if you do get 75 bookings, you'd be lucky if, out of that, maybe 25 or 30 turned up. And, I started to go, okay, well, I need to work out, because it was a major, lead generation strategy or client generation strategy for our business. Always has been. It always has been super effective. And so I started to ask myself, so what's going on? Well, two things are happening. One is there is people that are just dequalifying themselves, which we're going to talk about in this podcast with Carl, because having a qualified lead in front of you is important, and quality over quantity is much more important. So it never bothers me, but it did make me think about, okay, why is it that less people are turning up? So after surveying all the people that didn't turn up, what we're finding is a lot of people are going to events and they're not getting what they expect. They're only getting a part of the puzzle, and they feel like they're being sold to. So here's why my events are different. Number one, they're not a big pitch fest. I genuinely give you 3 hours of training that you can take away and you can implement into your business immediately to see immediate results. I don't leave anything out. I don't hold back. I make sure I give you complete value. Now, a lot of people say, well, why would you do that for free, Ben? Well, it's sort of like test driving a car. You want to test drive the car before you buy the car, and that's 100% understandable. You don't know us, you don't know who we are or what we do or how we do it. The best way for me to do that is to run you through our business growth system step by step, so you can see exactly how to grow a business, and then decide, do I do this myself or do I get them to help me? It's that simple. So I've been doing these for free for that reason, is I like to be able to give you the opportunity to make that decision in a safe environment. It's not a one-on-one sales meeting. It's not you coming to us. It's you in a group of people being able to make that decision for yourself, whether it's right or not. Because, what we do is sort of like enrolling in a gym. I can't force you to enroll in the gym and go to the gym and do the exercise and get fit. The same thing in our business. We're here to help you take your business to the next level. We're here to help you build the business that you imagined. But if you're not ready to do that, then, it's not going to work. So we've got these events. East Coast of Australia, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane in the first week of September, which is about a month from now. Love to see you there. Now, if it is after that time and you're listening to this podcast, still go and check out the website because I may have more events on. This website that I'm giving you right now, though, is businessfasttrack.com.au. That's businessfasttrack.com.au. Go there, check out the dates, book yourself in, and hopefully I'll see you at one of those events. Great 3-hour workshop where we get to spend some time together. I run you through my 5-stage Business Acceleration Blueprint, showing you step-by-step how to take your business to the next level. All right. Well, that's enough self-promotion. I had to plug that in there before the interview. But I now will introduce you to Carl. Carl is an amazing guy, and I love the energy Carl's got. Sometimes I speak to a lot of people and, sometimes the energy is just bounding out of them, and that's the case with Carl. He's a business growth expert. Now, I know you've probably heard that term before. He's mentored many people, but the thing I love about Carl is actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk. He's an entrepreneur. He's built 3 multi-million-dollar businesses by the time he was 40, and he has mentored and worked with and launched over 5,000 businesses. So he's got a fair bit of knowledge in the business growth space. He's also written 3 best-selling books on business strategy and growth. Those 3 books is Blueprint for Success, The 7 Stages of Small Business Success, and the most recent one that we're going to talk about today is Biz Dev Done Right. And he regularly appears on television and on radio, helping business owners all over the world grow their business. So I think you're going to love this interview. Carl is straight to the point, very clear about what it takes to build a business sales process. We're going to talk about recruiting the right salespeople, what to do about salespeople that aren't performing. We're going to talk about why sometimes business sales process fails, what are the missing links, and what are his 9 key steps of any sales cycle or system or process that you need to have in your business. It's great to have Carl on the Business Brain Food podcast with us today. Welcome to the Business Brain Food podcast, Carl.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, my absolute pleasure, my friend. My absolute pleasure. Now, before we do get stuck into Biz Dev Done Right, which I know is super important and everybody's just eager and waiting to hear about, I want to ask you the question I ask every single guest, and you're not going to escape this question, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
So something quirky for me. So I'm like total energy guy. As a matter of fact, my nickname when I had my first construction company was Captain Glucose, because I had so much, because everyone said, my God, you must be on constant sugar. But I absolutely cannot sit through a movie without falling asleep. So I go to the movies, I get into the movies, and even if it's one that I want to go to, 5 minutes later, my kids are like, Dad, wake up. Come on, you're sleeping at the movie again. And so for me, it's I constantly fall asleep at the movies. I've tried standing at the movies. I end up sleeping standing up. It just doesn't work.
So you've got to be on the go all the time, eh?
Because they need seats where you can move in. As soon as I sit there, it's nice and dark. It's comfortable, nice dark seat. I'm sitting static. I'm gone. 10 seconds flat.
Well, there you go. Well, some movies, unfortunately, put me to sleep. I've got to be honest. Some are good, but, that's just how it goes. Anyway, we could talk about that for the next half hour or so. But whilst we've got you, I think what we'd rather talk about is your book, Biz Dev Done Right, and helping business owners navigate the path of getting more sales. Tell me a bit about what got you in the field of helping people improve their sales.
So it's been a big part of every business I've been in. And I had 2 careers in my own business that were construction related. And but when I started to advise companies, it became very, very apparent that if your sales aren't increasing and your business isn't growing, you're not going to make it. It's the lifeblood of every business. You cannot be in business. You cannot be a business owner unless you know how to market and sell yourself. And marketing and sales, while they have 2 different words, they are 2 sides to the same coin. Marketing is the strategy of business development. Sales is the execution or the tactics of business development. You have to be able to do it. If you can't, you will not survive. And so it is the top skill every business and its people have to have. And so since it was such a vital part of the work that we do with our clients, we just made it a central service in what we deliver.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, would you say that we hear about a lot of businesses failing. Are you saying that is quite often because they lack the ability to market and sell their products or services?
Absolutely. Plain and simple. If you can't sell it, you can't, if you can't sell it, you can't survive. And we watch all these shows like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den and all these investors, and all the investors say the same thing. If they see somebody who can sell, and will push and influence others, then they get behind that person. But if they suspect this person can't sell themselves, forget it. It's a done deal. They won't follow. They won't invest them and follow their dream. And I would be the same way. I would not want to get involved in a company where the owner was adverse to selling or was not going to develop and continuously develop that skill.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Because there's a lot of people out there that would say that they're not good at sales and they don't like sales, but they're going to go into business or they are already in business. Do those people need to work on their sales skills to be more successful?
Yes. Now, look, any professional, it should be required study that you take sales as a college course, because sales is the study of building relationships and communicating effectively what it is you do, what problems you solve, how you can help people. It's the study of that. So everybody should learn it, and it's one of those things, Ben, that it's not like a course you take. It is what we would call a category of improvement. It is a category of your professional development that you just flat out have to get good at.
Well, it's interesting because I think there are a lot of people, and you must come across people that say, you know what, Carl, I just hate sales. I don't want to do sales. And they've got this whole, I don't know, this feeling that it's something that's yucky, or they're going to be perceived as, a snake oil salesman or sleazy, all those negative connotations that sometimes are attached to sales. What would you say to those people?
Well, they're and it's true. Some salespeople have earned the reputation of being pushy, of being over the top. But, the unfortunate part is that's how people buy. In sales, we say that an undisturbed prospect will not buy. Okay? An undisturbed prospect will not buy, which means you have to disturb them, which means you have to show them how their life without the product will be worse than with the product. And we have to show them that we have to demonstrate the gap between where they are now and where they should be, and how our product can fulfill that. So now, some salespeople have gotten the reputation of being pushy, and some types of salespeople, like used car salesmen, are notorious for this, have gotten the reputation of just selling whatever. But you know what? They can't get that reputation unless people are buying from them. And when a salesperson's noisy and it works, you're going to get more noisy. You're going to get salespeople being more noisy on a regular basis because people respond to it. So you don't have to be any one type of salesperson. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to be intellectual. You don't have to be fun-loving. You don't have to be systematic. If as a sales producer, you just be you. You genuinely care about the well-being of your clientele, and what you do is, and you genuinely feel that your product or service can fulfill a need, then you will sell and you'll be very effective. If you're not fully passionate about what you sell, if you're not totally bought in on what you sell, you can't sell it. So you have to fully believe with every molecule in your being that the product and service that you have will improve the lives of the people that consume it or use it, and then you can sell. If you're passionate, you can be successful at it.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point for people. If you don't love what it is you do, it's going to be hard to sell. Now, I'm interested to know though, Carl. I mean, one of the things we do see a lot of business owners that still would say, "Well, I'm still just don't like sales." Are they able then to hire a great salesperson to fulfill that role, or do you still feel that a business owner must partake at some level and understand the sales process and the, I guess, the science behind it?
Yeah. So they can hire somebody to do it, which is great. Now, as we talk about in the book a lot, as the owner, you should really understand what how to manage somebody and how to understand and install the system that they need to work from so they can be productive. Sales is a system. It's very predictable. Think of a long garden hose for a second, right? And let's say that garden hose is 15 meters or 45 feet, and the length of the garden hose represents how long it takes to make a sale. They call that the sales cycle, from the time you meet somebody to the time you sell something to them. Let's say it's a month, right? Every day you have to stuff a watermelon or a large fruit or a large ball, rugby ball, whatever, into that thin thin garden hose, so it looks like it's got a lump in it, like a snake. And every day you force feed that in there, and it looks like a snake who's eaten like 10 animals. And so every day you feed that ball in, that's like a lead. And then 30 days later, as you're going through your sales process, poof, out the other end pops a sale. And so if you can hire somebody for it, but you have to have a system. And you have to have a lead generation system, and you have to way to nurture your prospects in such a way that on a consistent basis they buy the product on a somewhat of a regular basis.
Yeah, and so that's a good segue. Let's talk about the sales system or process, because I think that's would you agree that's a critical part of the sales or getting sales or growing sales in a business? Yet so many businesses are missing that.
They are. So one of the things that we say is that in the beginning, when you start a business, the way you sell is that you are probably friends selling to friends. In other words, you do a good job for somebody and you say, hey, do you know anyone else that would benefit from my product or service? And so your friend, your new customer, they refer you to somebody they know. So you are now friends selling to friends. And you do a nice job for that person, and you go back and you say, well, would you mind referring me to somebody who might be able to benefit from my product or service? And that friend will recommend another friend. You are friends selling to friends. What you need to do is you need to become strangers selling to strangers. And what I mean by that is you will hire that salesperson that you just mentioned, Ben. You'll hire them. It's somebody you probably don't know. And they will go out and drive leads, and they will sell to people you've never met before. So you hired a stranger who will then sell to strangers. But in order to become strangers selling to strangers, which is the only scalable way to sell, you have to have that system that I just talked about.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before, a lot of your clients you've worked with, and this was the reason you decided to write this book, was that a lot of clients you worked with needed help setting up their sales process. What were some of the key things that you had to implement for them to be successful? Can you give us a rundown of what a typical sales process would include?
Sure. As a matter of fact, we do a 9-step sales process in chapter 2 of the book that walks everybody through the 9 steps that they go through and what would it take to be as successful as possible. But I could tell you that one of the key skills that every salesperson needs to develop, and where a lot of sales systems go badly, is their lack of ability to qualify the prospect, right? So I'll give you the steps. First step is you have to have strategic planning to differentiate yourself. Number 2 is you have to then market. And we suggest that you have 5 simultaneous lead generation systems going on at the same time. Then step number 3 is that marketing and lead generation activities will lead to your first lead, right? Marketing your marketing will turn into lead, and you will have that initial conversation. So that's the next step. And so once you have that initial conversation, that's when somebody goes on your live chat box or shows up at your door or calls you on the phone or shoots you an email. It's the first intersection with your business. So you hope it's a pleasant one. And then you have the initial conversation where you talk about what it is you have to offer and what are their needs. Then you qualify. This is the key one. You qualify. Can this person even qualify to buy from me? Porsche, the automobiles puts out a lifestyle magazine where only 10% of the subscribers actually own a Porsche. 90% of the people, who subscribe to it, they aspire to own a Porsche. but they're not qualified. They're not qualified to buy a Porsche yet. That's why they buy the magazine, because for whatever reason, they don't buy a car. So after you qualify them, then you craft and customize the transaction. Then you have to get on some level, you have to do some sort of agreement or paperwork. Okay. Any one of these steps, the deal could fall through. Then you need to get third-party approval. So, most people don't realize this, but the salesperson is almost always not authorized to actually sell anything. So think about this. When you go into an auto dealership to buy a car, can the car salesman sell you that car?
Well, typically, they have to get approval from a manager, don't they?
Correct. They take it back to the finance manager and they say, hey, I've got an offer, can we sell them this? Can we finance it? It's either the office manager, the finance manager, or somebody like that. The salesperson's not even authorized to make the sale in most cases, And so you have to get third-party approval from the finance manager or the government or the bank who does the financing, whatever. And then you close the deal. But in those 9 steps that I just laid out for you, qualifying is probably one of the more important skills. And the reason why, Ben, is that in sales, the worst place you can come in is second place. So when it comes to sales, think about it. If this was the Olympics, you and I were swimming against each other, and hopefully Michael Phelps wasn't in the pool, and let's say you won, right? You won the gold, you get the gold medal, they'd raise the flag, they'd all be singing your national anthem, and then I would be coming second. I'd get the silver medal, I'd come home, and they'd throw a parade for me. But in selling, you show up at your sales meeting and say, guys, so close. What do you know? We lost out. We came in second, right? So second place means that you probably lost out to a competitor, but worse, what happened was you dragged your company's resources all the way to the finish line, only to find out that you were never really in the game in the first place. And as a result, you lost out to your competitor and you spent the company's money. So you want to come in last. In sales, you want to come in first, or you want to come in last. And so qualifying the prospect is a key skill that you really need to develop.
So let's have a chat about that skill, because I think it's important people get a bit of an understanding of how to go about qualifying their customers. Sure, there's the obvious things. What sort of things are you looking for when you're qualifying a lead or teaching people to qualify their leads?
Oh, great question. So what we suggest everyone does is do an ideal client profile. You might call it here the name persona or avatar. But who is the most likely person that would benefit from your product or service, right? And why would they be a good beneficiary of your product and service? And would they be willing to pay a premium price? And so you would create the profile or the avatar of the person who would do that. So you think about it. Melbourne is a great sports city, and I live near New York. And so my wife and I are big tennis fans. And you would think that if you're that the ideal client profile for people to go to the Australian Tennis Open would be, Australians, right? And people from Melbourne. But that's not actually the case. It's tennis fans. And, tennis fans will travel across the globe to go to that particular tournament. And so not only would they do that, but then they'd be willing to get into a plane and go to the French Open, the Wimbledon finals, and the U.S. Open. My wife and I go to the U.S. Open, and we see people from all over the world are there. And they are the ideal client avatar. They're raving fans of the sport, of the event, and so they're willing to not only come, they're willing to buy a second time, and they're willing to tell people about how great of a time they had. And so you create the ideal client avatar, and if you can answer these couple of questions, you're really on the road to knowing who your preferred buyer is. Here's the first question. First question is, what keeps my ideal buyer up at night worrying? What's on their mind? Why are they not sleeping tonight? What is bothering them? Okay, that's number one. The second question is, what do they get yelled at for or feel guilty about at the end of a workday when they arrive home? Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is, what's going on in their life or business right now that makes buying from you an urgency? It's not a luxury, it's an urgency. So here's a good example. One of our clients does security systems, like closed circuit TV, and they sell maintenance plans. And we said to them, well, why don't you sell a maintenance plan from the very beginning? They said, oh, nobody wants to buy it because all of the equipment is warranted. And so we said, okay, great. When is the perfect time to sell a maintenance contract on new security equipment? And they said, oh, I got it. Everybody asks us about that when they have a maintenance call. They think that they're, all these cameras are invincible, and they realize that, well, these things actually do break and they actually do have problems, or they get vandalized, right? And so whenever that happens, now it's on their mind. That's a trigger point to that sale. And so we know who buys our security systems, what are they fearful of? They're fearful of getting sued or stolen or robbed. And when's the perfect time to ask for that sale? And if you have those 3 answers, you're really on your way to understanding who is the right buyer for you and how do you sell to them and when.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important to people. I mean, we've heard this persona word thrown out there before, but to get that clear about it, I think is important. Now, that's getting clear on who your ideal customer is. So then somebody rings you up as a lead, and you've got to then try and fit them into that either that square hole or the round hole, and there might be a square peg. But you've got to try and fit them into your persona. Now, what questions can you ask them? Because I know a lot of people struggle with asking for things like budget, but is that something that you should be doing before you meet with someone?
Look, I got to tell you, it's nice to know what their budget is, but the reality is that if they want it bad enough, they will save up their money, and when they're ready, they will seek you out. So the thing is, take whatever it is you sell. Take what your clientele is most passionate about. And I've actually had the privilege of running a business where it was a bucket list item. In my construction company, I used to build log homes, right? These post and beam full log structures. And for people that are into log home living, they are passionate about it. And you cannot stop the transaction if you tried. They've been saving up for years. They have a file full of pictures and photos. They've bought the land. When they're ready to build a log home, you either take the order and build it or get out of the way because they're finding somebody else, right? So now, but they're very well researched, and so they know what good is and they know what not so good is. And so the key here is to understand what your clientele is most passionate about, not just kind of passionate, most passionate about, and then design your products and services and your messaging around that, right? So, that's what I used to do is when people aren't just passionate about log home living, they're passionate about the fireplace of inside of a log home, and not just any fireplace. They want a real log fireplace made out of natural stone that was probably harvested from that property or a local property. So I would advertise that. Natural stone, harvested, we'll guarantee it came from this place. They also have an independent streak to them. So we used to install wells where I built, there were no city water lines. We found out that there was a natural aquifer 480 feet down below the surface. So we advertised, you will never run out of water. You will always be sustainable. That's important to them. So we used to message out what they were most passionate about and that lifestyle, and people would come to us, and we were one of the top builders in the area for a long period of time. So it's the same thing here. Find out if you sell tickets to tennis tournaments, what are people most passionate about? Why do they want to sit where they want? And then people will come to you. You don't have to, especially in this day and age, we live in a Google world and an Amazon and a search world. You just have to work on getting found as much as you work on finding the prospect. Just get found by giving them real education-based, deep dive knowledge on the topic of what they're most passionate about, and they will seek you out.
Yeah, good tip, good tip. Now, I'm interested to know, we talked before about the sales process maybe being, 30 days long, and you're talking about sticking fruit into hoses, which is a good analogy because it's, it explains to people that once people are in that process, the reality is that throughout that 30-day process, people can drop out. Have you got any tips for people that have a sales process that's not keeping people all the way through to the end as much as they'd like to improve that statistic?
That's a really great question, because of those 9 steps that we put in there, they're not just 9 steps. They are the 9 things that happen in every sale. And so that's why we talk about it that way. But you're right. If you have 100 people come into your funnel, not everybody makes it to step 2, not everyone to 3, not everyone to 4, not everyone to 5. So the key is speed. Time kills deals. There's no other way around it. When it comes to selling something, you have to get your clientele to an emotional peak, right? And when they're at that emotional peak, that's when you bring them through the funnel as quickly as possible. And I don't mean you rush them through, but if they're ready to buy, you sell. End of story. And you might say, well, that's obvious. Why would you do it any other way? The reality is that salespeople sometimes get stuck in their own process. And if I'm ready to buy, but you're still on step 2, but I'm on 9, you might say, well, Carl, perfect example. I just bought a new car. I walked into the place and the guy's like, all right, well, I said, I already test drove a car. I don't need to test drive this one. Same one. And they said, yeah, but I got to do this. And I said, no, we don't. I already checked out the financing. I already know what it is. He said, yeah, but I'm like, there's no yeah, buts. I'm ready. I'm ready now. And he struggled so hard. And I said, look, I'm on my way down. I have 30 minutes. No, we need more time. We don't need more time. I was ready to buy quicker than he was ready to sell. And it happens a lot, actually, where salespeople get overwhelmed in their own process. And so, the key is once they're excited, you move them to a close immediately. If that means you have to skip a couple steps in your process, you do that, and you move those steps to the end of the process as the first things they do once they make the purchase.
That's interesting. You're talking about the word sales funnel, and we see, especially in this day and age, the amount of automation that's available out there and people pushing sales funnel automation. Are you a fan of using this automation? And because that does stick you to a process, doesn't it? Rather than you being able to fast track it.
It does. Now, here's an interesting thing. You can imagine a circle for a moment, or a wheel, and on the right-hand side of the wheel is your strategic planning and your business development. And on the left-hand side of the wheel are 2 quadrants for implementation, processes and ops, and also your cash flow. Think right side, left side. Well, on the right side of the wheel, that's the effectiveness of a business, right? You're effective in planning out, getting a lead, making a sale. It's very hard to become totally efficient in that area. Now, the efficient side of the business is on the left-hand side. You can be very efficient in how you manufacture a product, how you ship a product, how you bill for a product, how you answer your emails. That's the efficiency side. But when it comes to sales, you can only get so efficient. You can't get it's much more important to be effective, which means if I have somebody who's interested, I get them to buy whatever it takes. And so the thing about automation, which I'm for having that option for those who like to buy that way. But I don't like to lean on that, because if I find somebody who's passionate, they are ready. They are almost always ready to buy quicker than my process is. As a matter of fact, I would dare say that if they are passionate about what you do, they show up pre-sold. And now they're just validating, are you the right person? Did I make the right judgment call? Are you not an axe murderer? Are you somebody, I just want to make sure there's no problems with this, but I'm already sold. I don't have to be sold on you don't have to sell me that the Australian Open would be a really cool tournament to go to. I'm a tennis fan. I've been to the U.S. Open. I'm already sold on the Australian Open. Just help me make the purchase. Don't try to sell me because you might lose me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, your car purchase is a classic example. You're ready to go, already done the test drive, already done the research on the finance. Yet that salesperson sounds like they wanted to take you through their own process. So
yeah, because they were trained. Oh, I got to sit you down. You got to twiddle the knobs. You got to get the new car smell. You got to take it for a ride. All that stuff. I mean, I get it. That's what they were taught to do, and they probably have some statistic that says, the average prospect, if they take a test drive, is 46% more likely to buy, right? So they'd read that playbook and they said, oh, here comes some guy, but he doesn't want to get in the car. Oh my God, I have a 46% chance less, of selling. And I'm sitting there saying, dude, it's sold. Dude, come on, let's just go. I'm ready, and but yeah, you have to be careful because they get caught in their own processes.
Yeah. Now, we spoke before about hiring salespeople. I'm interested to hear your take, Carl, on, there's a lot of people out there that hire salespeople, but it doesn't work for them. Is that, or why do you think that is? Why do you think so many people struggle to get salespeople working optimally within their business?
Well, it's a bit of a complicated issue because a lot of times the people doing the hiring are not great at sales, so they don't recognize what a good salesperson is, or they don't know what the traits are. And salespeople are pretty good at selling. And what is an interview? It's them selling themselves. So they know what to say. They can all make themselves sound really good. Like you're done with just about you think you know what you want, right? And so you go out and you take an ad out. And you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what I want in a salesperson. And so then 10 of them show up and you give them all interviews and you walk out saying, I thought I knew what I wanted before, but they all interviewed pretty well because salespeople do that. They're good at that. But there's a couple of traits that you just have to have, and you just have to have, when you're looking for a salesperson, you need somebody who is somewhat, not totally, but somewhat low on empathy. Okay, they don't indulge or buy into the story of why you can't buy. They kind of ignore it and move through it. They're good relationship builders, moderate on empathy, high on drive, very competitive, very urgent. So it's not what people make the mistake of, Ben, is that they make the mistake on style. Oh, this person's low key, introverted. They can't be a good salesperson. That person could be a killer. It's the traits that make the good salesperson. You could teach anybody to sell any product because sales is needs identification and then matching product and service to needs. That's it. That's all it is, right? But what you need is the person who is not going to fear rejection, the person who's not going to go home and pull their hair out because somebody didn't like their product or service. You want somebody with a very short memory, low empathy, will push through the objections no matter what. And so you want a scrapper. You want somebody with grit. And so you look at the traits and the attributes of the person first, and you could teach them the mechanics later.
Yeah, it's hard to teach grit, isn't it? That's a hard skill to teach.
They either have it or they don't.
Yeah. And now what happens if, let's say a business owner's listening to this, they've got a salesperson on they've had for long term, maybe they've had someone 12, 18 months, and this is a common problem, but that person hasn't been performing. Is there a chance that they could upskill that person, or would you say that they just need to replace that person?
That's an interesting question because the salespeople will come and go. I mean, you're going to turn them over. It's just a fact of life. Now, why might their results have flattened out is the more appropriate question, because depends. Salespeople are very competitive and they're hungry. And if you take away that hunger and you satiate that hunger, all of a sudden they lose their competitiveness. So, as long as you are paying your salespeople on performance, so they maybe have a little bit of a draw, which is just an advance on their commissions. But, many owners make the mistake of giving their salespeople salaries, base salary, or enough base salary that even whether they perform or not, they still make enough money to get by. I want somebody, who if they don't kill, they don't eat. And I can tell you this, I've watched people who say they're not salespeople who are hungry or need a meal, and they turn into salespeople awfully quickly. People get very resourceful when they have very strong, survival needs. But if you take away those survival instincts from a hunter, the quickest way to kill a hunter is put a farm in their backyard. You know what I mean? So you can upskill somebody, but the key is the motivation and the drive. And when it comes to sales, you are going to be rejected more often than you're going to be accepted. And so if you let that get you down emotionally, then all of a sudden you're going to have a real problem. But virtually every person has the ability to sell. The question is, do they have the attributes and the ongoing motivation to drive them forward on a consistent basis? Almost always, if a salesperson has lost their, is in a slump, it's almost always because the motivation wasn't there, and the company took it away by altering their compensation plan, where they're comfortable.
Mm. Yeah, good tip. But if that person's never been highly successful, then are they probably not going to ever make it, do you think?
That's a great question. The answer is yes. Look, you take a peak performer and you tell them and you say to them, listen, I know there's a job in your company you hate to do, but for the health and welfare of your family, not only do you have to do that job for the rest of your life, but you have to be great at it. And you know what? That person's going to become great at it. They're just going to become great at it because that's what they do, and that's their standard. Anybody can sell. Selling is so straightforward and so simple. You just have to be fully bought in on the product. You have to understand the customer and then give them the opportunity to buy. And if you've positioned it right, people will buy. And then it is literally how many prospects can you go meet that fit the profile, and just tell them what it is you do. It is an energy and willpower and consistency game. And if you're willing to do it, you can be successful. If you're not willing to do it and you're not up for the task, then you're not going to be successful. But anybody can do it.
Yeah, good summation, I think, because I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I see so many business owners with people that they've had hired in a sales role that haven't been working out and not sure what to do about it. And I think it almost goes back to the very start of this interview where we chatted about the fact that as a business owner, having the sales skills yourself helps you identify then where people need help and making sure you hire the right people.
To that point, Ben, a while ago, I saw a keynote speech by an Australian professor. His name was Dr. Robert Spillane. He was excellent, and he talked about personality types. And he said in the 500 years of formal study on personality, there has been no correlation between personality and performance, which means any personality type can perform as high as they want in their chosen occupation, whatever that is. So if you want to be a salesperson bad enough and you don't fit the mold, you can still do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. So many people put themselves into a box and go, well, I'm a reserved person, I can't sell, or that person can sell because they're outgoing. But it's like I said, it's not necessarily about that, is it?
Not at all. It's about desire. Yeah. And if you got it, you can get it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I'm just mindful, Carl, we're just about out of time, mate, but I 100% appreciate you coming on the show. And I think, I could talk to you all day about sales, because those that know me know I love sales, and I love your thinking. I love the way that you've got a process behind, introducing sales leads through a process in a business to get the result that you want. How can people find out more?
You can go to carlgould.com, CarlGould.com, and you can learn about our programs and our products. And we have a program called Hypergrowth, which will show you how to double your sales and create sustainable profits in your business. We have Hypergrowth Academy, which is our online course. And if you go to carlgould.com or just email me, carl@carlgould.com, and we'll get you signed up for the Hypergrowth Academy, and we'll show you how to increase those sales.
Great stuff. Now, if you missed those links because you're driving or in the gym working out, whatever it might be, they'll be on the website at businessbrainfood.com.au. This is episode 146. We'll have all of those links in the show notes, making it easy for you to find those links. Once again, Carl, I really appreciate you coming on the show, mate, and sharing your wisdom. It's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure, mate. There's only one thing left to do, and that is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
Oh, born ready. Bring it on, my friend.
All right, the clock is ticking. Have you got a favourite or inspirational quote that you can share with the listeners?
Playing small will not serve the world. You playing big shines light on others and gives them permission to do the same.
Love it, love it. Number one tip for being more efficient.
Plan your week in advance. If you're planning your days in advance, you're in the weeds. Plan your week in advance. Look at your week well into the horizon, and you will anticipate problems before they become problems.
Nice one. Do you have a hidden talent?
Yeah, it's so well hidden, I don't even know what it is. My hidden talent. Oh gosh, I'm a very good sports coach. Don't do it as much as I should, but I'm a very good sports coach.
Nice. What's your biggest addiction?
Biggest addiction would be Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey ice cream.
Nice, nice. That's good ice cream. The old Ben & Jerry's made. It's here in Aussie, so we love it. What's your favourite drink?
My favorite drink, I'm a smoothie guy. If I had to go with alcoholic drink, it would be a Golden Cadillac margarita.
Nice stuff. Well, once again, thanks for joining us on the Business Brain Fit podcast. I'm sure the listeners got a lot out of that, and they'll be taking their business to the next level. Cheerio.
Learn more to earn more.
Well, I think it goes without saying it was a pretty valuable episode. Every business, no matter what type of industry you're in, needs to have a sales process that is effective. You need to have salespeople that are effective, whether that's you or people that you hire. But no business goes without having a sales cycle or a sales process. And there were some things in there that are going to be fairly confronting, I think, for you. You know, for some people, they won't be comfortable with the way that Carl spoke about sales and putting the urgency in there and making sure that if people are ready, that you put them through the process. And he talked about people getting called pushy salespeople and saying that those pushy salespeople do it because it gets them the result. So think about your industry, see what's got to be done. I'm not a pushy salesperson sort of fan. I am. Well, interesting. Now, when I say that, I like to push people to make a decision, and I think maybe that's definitely what Carl was saying. Not everyone is going to say yes, but I don't think I'm doing anybody a favour by letting them sit on the fence. And it was like that Mr. Miyagi. He said left or right, but sitting on the line you get squished like grape or something like that. I can't remember what the exact term was. I feel the same is true when I'm talking to somebody about where they're at currently and making a change. And if people aren't ready to make a change, they need to just be honest with you and say, I'm not ready. That's okay. That's cool. But if you are ready, let's get you started. So Carl, that could be confronting for a lot of people, and I know it will be the way that Carl spoke about sales and making sure that you have a process to streamline getting people to buy when they're ready. And I think that's really important. So really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Carl. Thanks so much. Good luck with everything in the future. And, go and check out his books. Like I said, he's got those 3 books. They're all available on Amazon, and I think you're going to love those. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, leave a review on the iTunes store. Really would appreciate it. The other thing is I've got my live events coming up across the east coast of Australia, Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane in the first week of September. It's the Business Fast Track Seminar Series. It's a 3-hour workshop where I take you through my 5-stage Business Acceleration Blueprint. Now, one of the things that I do show you at this event is exactly how you can increase your sales by 23% in the next 90 days without having to work any harder. And I know, for a lot of people, sales is important. So if you want to know how to increase your sales by 23% in the next 90 days, get to one of my events, businessfasttrack.com.au. That's businessfasttrack.com.
Learn more to earn more.
Yes, we need to learn more to earn more, definitely. Thank you. See, I've accidentally hit a button there, but that's okay. I'm going to leave that in there. Businessfasttrack.com.au. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. I'm going to hit the right button this time, which is the music that plays underneath my voice as I'm finishing the podcast. And if you've listened this far through, thank you. Until next week, have a profitable day. I'll make sure I've got my stuff together when it comes to these buttons.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can live all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food Podcast is brought to you by MaxMyProfit.com.au. Head to MaxMyProfit.com.au and grab yourself a free copy of my Planning Your Pathway to Success ebook, MaxMyProfit.com.au.